So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Dustin, Brandon, and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
The Heel to Face podcast coming into SummerSlam weekend. We are joined, as always, with Brandon Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. You can find myself on Twitter and Instagram at KRockJared. Most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face. SummerSlam this upcoming weekend. You have NXT. You even have Ring of Honor in town. I actually was watching a Ring of Honor show this past week. Didn't even know that, but it's not something of honor. It's Summer Mayhem, something. Either way, that's going on. So SummerSlam weekend going on this weekend. All the festivities going on. I actually want to start the show. Before we get into great SummerSlam talk, we've been talking a little AEW, and we got to have a little AEW talk on, I guess, every single show. So it's been announced that the following 2 weeks of TNT television, after they're in Washington, D.C., those tickets are about to go on sale. They will be in Philadelphia, and they will be in Boston. And it looks like Wednesday night is going to be the night. Obviously, the first night was Wednesday. The next 2 nights are going to be Wednesday as well. So I'm assuming they haven't said, I don't think they've said anything yet about being live, meaning there's still a chance they could tape these and they could go on the air the next week. But I'm pretty sure that this is going to be live and every Wednesday night. Now, what we were talking about seems to have pretty much been confirmed. When they go to Philadelphia, they will not be at the Wells Fargo Center. They will be at the, I think it's the Licorius Arena. It is home of Temple University. It is in downtown. I want to say that's where ECW were like hold their pay-per-views when they'd come to Philly, outside of obviously the Philadelphia arena. But it's a smaller, I want to say Impact Wrestling. They had a pay-per-view there. And then when they go to Boston, they're going to a place I know Impact Wrestling has been, and that's the Agnes Arena on the campus of Boston University. So essentially 2 of the same similar styles.
So it's essentially big cities, smaller venues. In the big
Yes.
cities. Okay.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Probably
expected.
7,000 most, probably about 6,000 for these TV
And
tapings.
that's, you know what, we expected that anyways.
Yes.
That was something we were like, all right, if they're going to a big city, they're not going to go.
They're not going to the Garden in Boston.
They're not going to MSG in New York.
Yeah.
They're going to go to the the smaller venues. Who cares if it's 6,000-7,000? If you sell it out, that's fine. It looks better aesthetically on TV.
And apparently Raw this past week had a little trouble selling out. Even though the product has been better in Pittsburgh, many fans noted that Monday Night Raw in Pittsburgh this past week had a lot of empty seats. SmackDown, I did not hear any news about that. I know the ratings for SmackDown went over 2 million again, and that SmackDown was apparently the better show this week of the 2. But either way, SummerSlam this upcoming weekend, as I mentioned, Ring of Honor has got a show on Friday night with Dalton Castle involved, as he's obviously always involved in Ring of Honor. And then Saturday, you have NXT. And then on Sunday, you have SummerSlam. We'll start with NXT as we're getting ready for SummerSlam this weekend in Toronto. NXT this Saturday night at the Scotiabank Arena, home of SummerSlam. From what I've seen, is not entirely sold out. Tickets right now, actually, on last check on StubHub, start at $7 to get in the door.
Wow, that's a good
for
deal.
this show.
Good
so,
price.
Brandon, unfortunately, you're busy. Unfortunately, I'm busy. And really, unfortunately, I'm busy because I know someone who's going who would pay for pretty much everything because they're one of those have to sit front row kind of people. So, in order to sit front row, money's really, I don't want to say money's no object, but when it comes to wrestling, they like to splurge. So, I would have had free ride, probably a free ticket, free good ticket. So it would have really been no issue for me to go to NXT this Saturday, but unfortunately, very busy making some money, hopefully to go to SummerSlam on Sunday night. But we'll start with NXT on Saturday night from the Scotiabank Arena. Let's look at some of these matches. Obviously, the main event is the 3 Stages of Hell match. Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano for the NXT Championship. Let's just start right with the NXT Championship for that. Obviously, who do you think is going to leave NXT TakeOver Toronto? The second TakeOver Toronto, remember, Survivor Series was there a couple years ago. Yes. So who do you think is going to leave TakeOver Toronto, SummerSlam edition, with the NXT Championship?
I'm thinking Adam Cole. I think he's going to be maintain the flag bearer of the product. I think he's the big draw right now in NXT. I mean, Velveteen Dreams obviously there, which by the way, Velveteen Dreams, facing Pete Dunne, but I mean, I want to see Velveteen Dream move on up to the top of the ranks, but Adam Cole with the Undisputed Era, I mean, you can't go wrong with those guys. I think if Johnny loses, I mean, I keep saying this about guys like that, but I think if Johnny loses, we move him up to the main roster.
I think it is time for, you know what? I think it's time for Adam Cole to probably be moved up to the main roster.
True.
I think it's, now here's the question I'll kind of add to you, because I'm kind of at a mix here. Who do you think deserves to be moved up to the main roster more, Johnny Gargano or Adam Cole? And I know Johnny Gargano already had his taste at the main roster and then was brought back down, obviously because of injury. He had to win the belt from his old partner who got hurt and kind of cost him his push. But either way, I always thought when he was getting the push that it was Adam Cole's turn. He's been there, I want to say, a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Adam Cole is, I would say yes. He's the bigger name, bigger draw to move up. But you have to leave. I mean, we've had this discussion.
You got to leave someone in there.
You can't
leave the well dry.
Yeah, you can't leave the cupboard bare. You got to leave some talent down NXT. And here's my thing, and we've talked about this on previous shows. I'm really hoping that WWE, the brain trust there, eventually does the original club, aka the Bullet Club, aka whatever you want to call them, versus Undisputed Era. Like have these like faction versus faction. Hopefully, we'll see that. That would be something to watch and, have the ratings, keep popping. I mean, that would be something good for this Fox deal coming up, but I think they might be, if WWE's smart about it, maybe that's something in the back here, back of the drawing board and saying, hey, you know what, let's get on Fox programming. And then maybe we can, really get those ratings, where we need to be, where Fox is happy, and maybe do something where it's like faction versus faction. I think that would be cool. But, I mean, at this point, I think Adam Cole, yes, I would say, slight edge, quote unquote, to be called up. But I would say because of Undisputed Era and they're dominating NXT, leave him there for now. Gargano's on his own, like he's a standalone guy. Ciampa's Ciampa. He can never stay healthy. So I would say bring Gargano up, bring Johnny Wrestling up.
Yeah, I think it's time for Adam Cole just because of the fact that when Adam Cole made his debut in NXT, I was under the impression that he was, and he still is, he's a very big name. But like we've seen before, kind of like when we see NXT guys get called up to the main roster where they lose their luster, where they were something big and you think they're going to get this push, and then all of a sudden you're like, what's going on with them? I don't want to say Adam Cole's at the Cassius Ohno stage yet, but I want to say Adam Cole, he had such, because of his priors before NXT, had such a great push when it was in NXT that many thought, okay, this shouldn't be long. He's in NXT just to get his feet wet. He's in AAA because he wasn't on our team before. We just signed him. We need to get him a few at-bats because he signed mid-season, but we signed him for the main team. And that's what I thought with Adam Cole. He's in NXT just because we can't have him debut like AJ Styles necessarily. We just need to have him get his feet wet before he comes to WWE. But then he's been out. He's down there for quite a while. He hasn't really suffered from any injuries. He hasn't really had any setbacks.
He's got the Samoa Joe syndrome. Like we waited forever, it felt like, for Samoa Joe to be called up.
True.
We were recording the show a couple years ago, and we were waiting, and finally Samoa Joe came up. So to me, he's getting the Samoa Joe treatment. Like, is he ready for the main roster? Absolutely. Is Undisputed Era ready for the main roster? Absolutely. But WWE, I think, is kind of, they don't want to show all their cards yet, especially with the whole Fox deal coming up. So I think maybe we'll see that after Fox. But if I'm bringing anybody up, maybe post SummerSlam, and on a Monday night after or Tuesday night after, Gargano's the guy.
All right, so we're moving on to the NXT Women's Championship match: Shayna Baszler versus Mia Yim. Shayna Baszler, I think, if you're going to ask me, is going to leave with the belt. Moving on to the NXT belt, just real quick, I'm picking Adam Cole, just so we have that clear. But women's match, Shayna Baszler, as I mentioned, I'm taking her as well for the women's belt.
Yeah, I will go Shayna Baszler. I mean, she's so dominant. I mean, she's been the flag bearer for the women's division for, down in NXT for a while now. She's so dominant. Mia Yim's a quality opponent, I feel like, but at this point, I think Shayna's she's gonna retain and keep holding on to that title for a while.
Do you think that maybe Mia wins? Do you think it's time for Shayna Baszler to get called up?
I would. I would wait. I think we need to. I still think she needs a little bit more work, a little more refinement. I don't think she's totally ready for the big call up. I mean, you could put her up, and I wouldn't be upset about it. But I think overall, I'd like to see a little bit more with the mic skills. The in-ring's not, the in-ring's solid, but I want to see her overall package. I want to see more, more first before we call her up. But yeah, she is one of those names that I would say you'll see her maybe. I know this is like 9 months out, 8 months out.
You think maybe by Survivor Series, maybe?
Is
that too soon as well?
That might be a little early. I mean, I'm thinking maybe post WrestleMania. That's where I would.
Oh, okay.
I'm waiting.
So we got a little bit for Shayna Baszler in your eyes there.
Yeah.
I don't say that long, but I say maybe till about Survivor Series. I think Shayna Baszler gets
fair.
called up. Velveteen Dream, Pete Dunne, and Roderick Strong for the NXT North American Championship. I mean, we've said this for a while. I think it's time for Velvet. I mean, this match is like who deserves to be called up here. I'm gonna go with Roderick Strong leaving with the belt, and I want to say maybe it's time for Pete Dunne to make his main roster debut.
Man, you steal my thunder.
Yeah, I think it's time for Pete Dunne to make his main roster debut because of the fact that he is one of these guys, thanks to NXT UK, that I know NXT UK is supposed to spotlight a bunch of people, but the problem is it really just puts like a dim light on people in replace of a spotlight. It puts a light on them. We know who Pete Dunne is, but the problem is it doesn't put a spotlight on them. Like, we're well aware of Pete Dunne, but the problem is he doesn't seem to ever get that. Well, when's he going to get called up? Because he's been kind of bogged down with the NXT UK, which doesn't seem to have that same kind of importance, at least in WWE's eyes, as NXT. We haven't seen really any NXT UK call up. I mean, I don't want to say Lars Sullivan. He wasn't NXT UK.
No, Lars wasn't.
Yeah, so we haven't really seen any NXT UK call-ups. I think it's time that we start really amplifying this brand by calling up Pete Dunne.
And I agree with you. You stole my thunder. You're making the exact points I was going to say. I want obviously Velveteen Dream in this match, obviously for obvious reasons. Velveteen Dream, we were talking about him earlier. As we were talking, Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano is like flag bearer names. Velveteen Dream is like that in my book. So he's a name that I think WWE is going to keep for some reason. They're just going to keep him in NXT. But if it was me projecting, I'm going to go Roderick Strong. To stay down NXT and win the title. I can see Dream and Dunn both being called up. I think those guys should be up by SummerSlam. If these two aren't up by the same timeline that I have for Shayna Baszler, we got some issues. I mean, Velveteen Dream and Pete Dunne, these guys are great competitors. I think they would make a huge impact on the main roster. Freshen things up. Dream's character's on fire. He's been on fire since he debuted. It's time. But I think Triple H and the Brain Trust, for some reason, they're going to keep Dream down for a while, and same thing for Pete Dunne. But if I had to go with anybody, winning this match, Roderick Strong, because he's the kind of guy. He's an NXT guy right now. I mean, he's a good guy to have down as like kind of like a flag bearer for the NXT North American, which I consider that like the Intercontinental title down there. That's how I
think that's how they consider it. That's why it's called the.
Yeah.
It is. They have. I mean, that's really, if you look at WWE back in the day before they had all the belts. I mean, you had the world, the Intercontinental, the tag belts,
and that's
what you got down there.
Fair. And you know what? And not to say Dream and Dunn or mid card NXT guys. No, these guys are superstars. But it's it's the mid card.
Well, the North American Championship in NXT, I think, is being treated like the Intercontinental belt was treated back in WWE. No one thought Macho Man was a mid carder. No one thought.
No.
Yeah. No one thought anybody who had, Chris Jericho essentially in like 1999 was a mid-carder. Nobody thought, those people were mid-carders. It was a very prestigious, important belt in WWE in the late 80s and the early 90s. Bret Hart, obviously, sometimes went off the air with the Intercontinental belt versus British Bulldog at SummerSlam 1992
over the world belt. One of the greatest of all time is, I would say Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
He was a great Intercontinental champion, and he was always a top-level guy. Actually, I was listening to a podcast, Jericho's podcast, and my favorite heel in the business right now is what's his name? What is it? Friedman, MJF.
Okay, yes,
MJF and AEW.
Yes,
he was talking about the
guy. Burberry.
Yes, yes, they were comparing scarves on the podcast. It was actually, if you haven't heard it, you gotta check it out. But one of his inspirations was Roddy Piper, and Roddy Piper, just because of who he was, like his character and everything, it's all about the character. So Roddy Piper is one of those guys that never had the heavyweight championship. He always had like the mid card level championship.
And I used to love that back in the day. I wish that was still a thing we had, where there isn't really anyone who is on the current roster who's a top level guy who hasn't really had the world belt. I feel like it's went down just a little bit, but I want to say go back to like 2009. I mean, when you had like the Sheamuses of the world, Dolph Ziggler's a former champion. I mean, you have a lot of people who are, let's say, mid-carders today who are former champions. You didn't have Ted DiBiase, never champion. Roddy Piper, never champion. Nope. I mean, And the best part about any of that is none of those people were any lesser than for not being champions.
No, and they're actually, believe it or not, I mean, a lot of fans would agree. Guys like Roddy Piper may have not won the heavyweight championship, but their legacy lives on longer than some of these multi-time world champions. So.
Absolutely, and that shows. And maybe, but be careful what you wish for here. Kind of going off a little tangent, but the reason why they were never champions is because there was one guy who had the belt the entire way through. Yeah. Well, so I mean, you kind of pick and choose over here. This, with the Brock Lesnar hater over here about.
I know.
We'll move on. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Yes. The tag team championships for NXT: Street Profits versus Undisputed Era. Now I'm gonna say,
Street Profits are on fire, man.
I'm gonna say Undisputed Era, and the reason, I want to say Street Profits and then Undisputed Era and Adam Cole get called up together as a faction. But I feel like the Street Profits, they look like, because they've been on the main roster.
Yeah, they've been hanging out backstage.
Yeah, they've been hanging out backstage. So I'm wondering if it's their time, kind of the Aleister Black way, where it's not really an official call up and they just kind of melt into the.
I could see that. I totally buy that. That's why I'm going to go with Undisputed Era myself, because I think the whole crew, Cole's going to be down there as well. I think they're going to be the flag bearers of NXT, and they're going to run the show down there for the foreseeable future is what I'm anticipating. And Street Profits you've already seen him with the likes of, Seth Rollins. There's, various appearances backstage. So I would say this, Street Profits are probably on their way up. I mean, it's a good infusion into the tag division right now. So I'm okay with it.
So I'm going to go, like I said, Undisputed Era, because I think Street Profits are going to start blending back in to the main roster. And we finally, the last announced match, Candice LeRae, the wife of Johnny Gargano, versus Io Shirai.
Io Shirai.
Io Shirai.
Yes.
My Japanese needs a little refreshing,
yes.
I'm going to say Candice LeRae takes this match. I think they need to push her a little bit more. She's now into the spotlight. Johnny Gargano kind of put her in the spotlight. I won't say. I mean, she obviously had wrestling ability. They met in the wrestling ring, so it's not like she was a nobody.
Yeah, they wrestled against each other.
They wrestled against each other. They wrestled together with each other in mixed tag matches. So she's not a wrestler, but in the NXT world, I feel like her being beside Johnny Gargano finally shot her up into getting her some time, in NXT where she deserves to be in singles matches, maybe going for the belt sooner than later.
Yes.
And I think it's Candice LeRae's time to get a victory in this match.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Candice LeRae as well. I think she's it's a well-deserved push. I feel like that is what she needs. So I mean, Io Shirai is really good. I mean, she came from over in Japan. I think it was I forget the name of the promotion over there. It was on Viceland. They have like those wrestler shows. I forget the name of it, but Io Shirai was a big name with Kairi Sane over in Japan. So I really like Io Shirai. I think she has a bright future in the business and NXT, and then moving up eventually. But at this point, Candice LeRae is the choice. I'm powerful woman in wrestling. There it is, right there. We're just we're pulling up on the Google here. We're just looking at stuff. Viceland has some really great wrestling programs. Definitely something you got. If you haven't checked it out.
Yes, I remember it was an interesting take. I remember the women's wrestling show on Viceland. I'm trying to get exactly what the name of the company was. I forget exactly what it was, but we'll look it up. Right, Stardom. That's it. Stardom Wrestling.
There it is. Yep, Stardom.
It was like the boy band. They kind of treat. You got to watch it. It's very unique.
Yes, it's good stuff. It's a great watch. Between that and then
girls are treated like boy bands there, I guess, in the world of wrestling.
And it's that and Beyond the Ring, I think it's called.
Yes,
that was another Viceland.
Dark Side.
Dark Side. Dark Side of the Ring. Good stuff. I mean, if you guys haven't seen that stuff yet, highly recommend. It's on Viceland. You could probably find it online if you don't have Viceland, but it's good shows. I mean, it's stuff, as a fan, you should watch. It's really good.
So we're going to move now on to SummerSlam. Like I said, SummerSlam weekend. This weekend, WWE's coming in there on Thursday night. They're going to take batting practice at the Blue Jays game right before they play the Yankees on Thursday night. They're going to do some sort of ceremony at the CN Tower. Now, just as a city in South, now, I love Toronto. It's very close to here. I go there all the time. But I want to say that this is kind of how I wish WrestleMania is, and I hope it's not going to be like this in Tampa. But this is how kind of perfect this could be if, let's say, WrestleMania was here. Okay, so on Sunday, I plan on going up for SummerSlam. Whether I'm going to the event or not is not 100%, but I plan on at least going to the Blue Jays-Yankees game at 1 o'clock. The walk to where the Superstore will be, and on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's also going to be Superstar signings. So there's not going to be an official access, but there's going to be a kind of a makeshift access for SummerSlam this weekend with some signings on Friday night and some signings. Like I said, a Superstore is going to be set up in the convention center. Now, the convention center from the Rogers Center is a total of not even a walk. It's literally from where we are right now to where we parked our cars, like in the actual parking lot.
Yeah.
It's probably less than a block. Now, the walk from Rogers Center to Scotiabank, where the SummerSlam is going to be, is probably a 5-minute walk, maybe 8 minutes if you're not going that fast. But either way, from the convention center to the arena to where if WrestleMania was obviously there, it'd be at Skydome, where it was in the 2 times it was there.
Yep.
So those 3 venues, let's say WrestleMania was to return to Toronto, you'd have Raw at Scotiabank Arena, you'd have access at the convention center, you'd have WrestleMania at Rogers Center. To get from the furthest venue to the most furthest venue is less than 8 minutes of a walk.
That's nothing.
Yes.
That's like
So
literally
that-
walking.
So if you got
downtown,
that
that's
is
nothing.
literally, I know like New York City is the place where everyone says you don't need a car, but the problem is when you go to WrestleMania in New York City, it is not that at all. I needed a car more at New York City than I have at any of the previous WrestleManias I've been to, because MetLife Stadium is way out in New Jersey. A lot of the indie wrestling companies were way out in New Jersey, in Brooklyn, in northern Manhattan. They were just all over the place. You had to cross $15 bridges. You had to pay tolls left and right. You had to sit in traffic. Here's a place, well, Toronto is not as big as New York City, but here's a place that if you were to have a WrestleMania or if you were to put SummerSlam at Rogers Center that weekend, is a place where you could get a hotel right in downtown and legit never need a car.
That,
So-
yeah, 8-minute walk. I mean, as I was just going to say, it's like
Every venue
walking.
is visible from the next venue, meaning when you're at Rogers Center, I can see the arena and the convention center. And when you're at the convention center, you can see the other two. Everything is within sight.
Yeah, I mean, it's like our studios are in downtown Syracuse. It's like literally walking, from one end of Walton Street to the other end of Walton
It's
Street.
literally
It's
a
nothing.
total, yes,
Yeah.
it's a total of like 3 or 4 blocks.
That's nothing.
That connect the furthest from the furthest.
That's nothing.
So it's, so if WrestleMania ever wants to go to Toronto ever again, or, to be honest with you, SummerSlam, I feel they kind of dropped the ball. This is supposed to be WrestleMania. I know that WWE is starting to do this more with the Royal Rumble, making it the second biggest show of the year. But I was brought up to SummerSlam was the second biggest show of the year. SummerSlam was the WrestleMania of the summer. So I was hoping, because we saw with the Royal Rumble at a stadium last year and the Royal Rumble at a stadium next year, we could have got the same with SummerSlam this year. But
we disagree on that, by the way. We've had that discussion before. I put Survivor Series above SummerSlam. It's always for me, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble. Then you got Survivor Series.
I mean, Survivor Series was the second pay-per-view that was invented behind WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania,
Well,
then Survivor Series.
I've always liked that. I'm a traditionalist. So
Then the Royal Rumble, actually. The Royal Rumble came third, and then SummerSlam came fourth. But I always just thought because of the scope, meaning SummerSlam is removed from WrestleMania, it's the WrestleMania of the summer because it has really nothing to do with WrestleMania. Royal Rumble and WrestleMania seem to just go hand in hand together.
I mean, the Royal Rumble match itself is my single favorite match of the year.
I mean,
no question.
You can't go wrong with that. Meaning, like, if you have a card like we have here, you're not so worried about the card because you have the Royal Rumble. And let's break down the SummerSlam card for Sunday night. Obviously, let's just start with what we saw on Monday Night Raw and kind of pushing, sold out, but not necessarily pushing ticket sales. But this is kind of, they realized they needed some oomph on the card. So Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz is not going to happen. It's now Goldberg coming back out of nowhere. Goldberg's making his return to Scotiabank Arena for the first time since he beat Brock Lesnar there at Survivor Series in 16 seconds, setting up that WrestleMania match down the road. But that was your main event of Survivor Series about 3 years ago, Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. Goldberg's coming back to Toronto. Will he make 16-second work of Dolph Ziggler?
I won't say 16 seconds. I will say I will go under 2 minutes.
Do you think Goldberg will put on a better performance than you saw him versus The Undertaker in Saudi Arabia?
WWE's praying. I mean, that match against Undertaker.
I think he will because we saw Undertaker obviously put on a better performance after Goldberg.
Yes.
Now, it's possible with the age of The Undertaker and Goldberg that they have a lot of bad matches in them. That's true.
Well, here's the issue with that. I mean, when you have a guy like Goldberg,
but I don't think it's a repetition. I don't think Goldberg's a bad wrestler. I think he just has the ability now that he gets older to slip up.
The issue is when you put two aging stars like Goldberg and Undertaker together, who's carrying who? You know what I mean? In this example, you got Dolph Ziggler and Goldberg. Dolph's going to carry the match. We know that. Like if it's going to be any longer than my projection of under 2 minutes, if it's going to go over 2 minutes, it's because Ziggler is really putting on a clinic wrestling wise because we know he's a great wrestler. So I'm hoping from that aspect it'll be a good match.
It is unfortunate, though, because probably we're going to get a pretty quick match, and Dolph Ziggler's abilities are not going to be able to shine here. We're just going to get kind of a Goldberg squash appearance. That's where we're going to get out of this.
Probably. I mean, he literally cut a promo and said, "You're next." So that's pretty much it.
Just like his promos, it's pretty much straight, cut to the point. I'm here for a performance. I'm here for a paycheck. Is this the last time we see Goldberg in a wrestling ring?
Probably not.
Saudi Arabia is always calling in. Goldberg, I know he's come out and said that this is probably his last match, or he might have even said this is his last match.
He said this a few times.
Yes, but again, he said it a few times.
It's like those farewell tours, like different rock bands. How many it's farewell tour 2, 3? It's like they're up to 10 farewell tours now.
So yes, I also don't think this is probably the last time we saw Goldberg. As long as there's money involved, and as long as they have to still need to be selling these Saudi Arabia shows. And there's another one apparently coming on Halloween this year, which will be a Thursday night in Saudi Arabia called Crown Jewel 2019. But we'll get
onto
that later on.
Yeah.
We're moving on to what will be a Cruiserweight Championship match in the opening, let's say the kickoff show.
Kickoff part, yes.
I even forgot because I stopped watching that show a long time ago, so I don't even remember the name of it. And it involves people from another show that I don't watch, 205 Live. Drew Gulak, he's the champion. We saw a little bit of him. He's been getting some push. I saw him perform a pretty decent match at that Evolve 10th anniversary show. We're pretty well aware of Drew Gulak. His opponent, because I don't watch 205 Live, not so much Oni Lacran.
No, it's Oni Lorcan.
Lorcan. This
more...
one is not because of translation. This one's because I just don't watch 205 Live.
Well, here's the thing. He actually made his name for himself in NXT. So he's not originally a 205 Live guy. He was wrestling and he was doing tag team matches, in NXT for the longest time. I'll tell you right now, if you haven't seen him, you should. I mean, he's a really good competitor. He's a gritty. He's kind of got this old school look, old school appeal. I think you'll enjoy him because he puts on good shows. Every time I've seen him, I didn't know who he was. Like, when I first saw him, I think it was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm like, who is this guy? I mean, he's not doing the flips like Ricochet and these Rey Mysterio, but he's in your face. He's kind of like he's an old school like throwback wrestler. I recommend watching him this weekend. I will still say this: as much as I like Oni, Gulak's going to win. He's going to carry the division a little bit longer.
And I think I'm not familiar with this guy, but I feel like in order to keep pushing 205 Live, maybe this would be a time to give this guy the belt. And one person who's in 205 Live that I would like, and I guess I would just like to see maybe 205 Live, and I didn't realize I would ever say this, but back in the day when the Cruiserweights were on Raw, I think maybe they should start doing some of that stuff again, where they start bringing them back on Raw and SmackDown and start bringing them to the eyes of people like myself who don't watch 205 Live. Because Chad Gable, from what I have, the snippets I've been watching, has been tearing it up in 205 Live.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chad Gable's one of those guys that he's a hell of a wrestler. He's got that Olympic background. I mean, it's not like he can't go. The unfortunate part was when Jason Jordan had his injuries and things like that. And obviously, that was even afterwards, but they never should have broken up that tag team. I mean, what was it? AA, I think it was.
Yeah.
American Alpha, something like that.
Well, yes.
Yeah, it was
Jordan and Chad
Jordan
Gable.
When they should have left those guys alone. That was a great tag team. I enjoyed that. Gable's kind of just been left out in the dust. Like it's like almost like at one point he was hanging out with Bobby Roode for a little bit. Like
yes.
Gable, no offense to Bobby Roode.
They won the tag belts, I believe, at the event I went to in Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and here's the thing: Gable's a guy that he deserves a bigger push than he's getting. So hopefully we'll see bigger things from him down the line.
Finn Balor taking on the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Like we said, I think this is a pretty even match that we can probably pick. I think Bray Wyatt is going to be victorious here. Finn Balor is going to take a little break. Where do we see Bray Wyatt going from here?
I don't know. I mean, could he attack more legends? I mean, is that a storyline we're going to be getting to? I mean, I don't know.
Question I'd like to ask you before we head into this match about Bray Wyatt now. Obviously, with the Firefly Funhouse, when it was going on before Bray Wyatt made his in-ring return, officially without a match, but his in-ring return.
Yeah.
Were you more interested in Bray? Has your interest in Bray Wyatt stayed the same since, let's say, the second or third Firefly Funhouse, or the first or second or third Firefly Funhouse?
Yeah.
Or has it kind of gone down a little bit now that we actually see him all the time and now that he's got a match coming up?
I like it. I mean, the intrigue's there. It's a unique character. I like this character makeover for Bray, so I'm happy with it. It's not stale. I mean, it's interesting. It's
I guess my intrigue came from where he was going with the Firefly Funhouse. I would like to see a little more back and forth between Bray Wyatt and the Fiend kind of thing. I know we see it, in the Firefly Funhouse, but
yeah,
I guess it's just unique because of the fact that the Firefly Funhouse always left us wondering where this is all going. And now we kind of see where it's going, and it's kind of played itself out. But I am very interested to see him back in the ring this Sunday, and obviously I'm picking him to win this match. Another person returning to the ring this week, Trish Stratus taking on Charlotte Flair in her home city of Toronto, kind of giving, again, that notoriety because, again, I agree, this is the WrestleMania of the summer, and I think WWE thinks it's WrestleMania of the summer when the fact that they're just throwing out these part-timers, and Trish Stratus is probably the ultimate part-timer, more than Brock Lesnar, because what is this, her third match back in WWE since being put in the Hall of Fame But she's taking on Charlotte Flair. I'm going to say Charlotte Flair wins this match because, unfortunately, Charlotte Flair is the Roman Reigns of WWE right now, and you just can't have every legend win. I want to say Trish Stratus is one of those people that knows how you pass things along, and I'm not saying that Charlotte Flair needs any torch passing, but I think Charlotte Flair is going to get the victory in here, and I think it helps because, again, Trish Stratus beating Charlotte Flair with the fact that the WWE is treating Charlotte like Roman Reigns. They probably don't want their Roman Reigns of the women's division losing to a part-timer.
No, you're right. I'll keep it short and sweet. I mean, Charlotte is the Roman Reigns of the women's division right now. So keep it short and sweet. Trish will put on a good match, but Charlotte's going to win.
So speaking of Roman Reigns, let's skip to that. Are we going to see Roman Reigns versus Buddy Murphy this upcoming Sunday?
I guess that's what we're hearing, right?
I mean, so there is 9 matches on the official card. If you say the Cruiserweight match will be on the kickoff show, I would probably say the card itself is going to have 10 matches. Goldberg's match is obviously going to be very quick. I don't see a few other matches. I see a few other matches going pretty quick as well. Charlotte versus Trish, I feel that going quick. So Extreme Rules having had about 10 matches, then I think SummerSlam is going to have 10 main matches.
Yeah,
so I would see that Roman Reigns versus Buddy Murphy. What do you make of this Buddy Murphy Roman Reigns thing? Who thought of this?
Yeah,
what is going on here? I mean, I'm fine with Buddy Murphy getting some sort of push, but you got to add the intrigue, Bray Wyatt style maybe
build
first.
Build a storyline, like build some intrigue. It's literally the Tuesday night before before SummerSlam this coming week or weekend. You see Buddy Murphy for the first time with Roman Reigns. It's like we're not building
you can barely do this with Goldberg, meaning with that little of a push, and it's Goldberg.
It's Goldberg, who's famous.
With Buddy Murphy, how do you do that? How do you give us a push or a match which is not even official as of recording the show? How do you give us this match between Buddy Murphy and Roman Reigns when Buddy Murphy has been an absolute, let's say, nobody? I mean, he's been a cruiserweight champion. That'd be literally doing the same. You could replace Buddy Murphy with Drew Gulak. You could replace Buddy Murphy with Ali. You could replace Buddy Murphy with a lot of people. Probably Ali would be even more of a name. I mean,
Ali's been out there a little bit more. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So this is kind of crazy to get Buddy Murphy such a push out of absolute blue.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, if this match does happen, I mean, at recording time, it's not official. But if we're gonna go hypothetical and say this match
something will happen between Roman Reigns and Buddy Murphy, or Roman Reigns in general.
I'll just say this: Roman Reigns is gonna win.
So here's another question. Obviously, 2 other people who aren't on the card, Daniel Bryan and Rowan. What do you see them doing at SummerSlam?
I could see them getting themselves involved in this potential Roman Reigns Buddy Murphy match.
Because we got no tag team matches on the card, including the new women's tag team champions. They're not on the card as well. Do you see them or the other Raw and SmackDown tag team championships being defended?
No, I don't think they're gonna do anything. I think they purposely did it on Monday night just to get it, a change. Why change titles right before the weekend of the show? I mean, if they were gonna do it, they were gonna do it at SummerSlam.
You don't see the New Day versus?
No.
See, I see the New Day versus Daniel Bryan and Rowan. Maybe on the kickoff show, but I see it happening.
If they do, it'll be very last minute per usual.
Yes. So moving on, we're going to talk about career on the line. Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon. I think I am not a Shane McMahon hater. I find him very entertaining. Obviously, going back to the days of him being thrown through the King of the Ring stage, him jumping off the SummerSlam set, or him falling off the SummerSlam set, jumping off the Backlash set. I mean, Shane McMahon jumping off Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania 32. That was probably the highlight for me when I was at WrestleMania 32, seeing him jump off Hell in a Cell. But
Shane needs to be.
I think it's time
to move on.
Because of the fact that he's there all the time, he's losing his luster, and the fact that he's there all the time now as an older opponent. It's weird because he was more part-time when he was younger. Now that he's older, he's there more, which is kind of the reverse of things. So I think in order for us to want to see Shane McMahon in a match again, let's say at WrestleMania, he needs to take himself back. And I think the problem with this career on the line thing, it does kind of ruin it for me because you obviously know Kevin Owens' career isn't coming to an end. If he does lose, they'll find some sort of way to bring him back. But the point is, it kind of, to me, gives away the result that Kevin Owens is most likely 100% going to win this match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kevin Owens is definitely winning this match. And it's time for Shane to take a step back and, less airtime for him means more airtime for more other superstars that Kevin Owens has mentioned, like Buddy Murphy. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Submission match for the women's women's championship of Monday Night Raw. Becky Lynch versus the Canadian Natalya. She's not from Ontario. She's from Western Canada, Alberta. But either way, they're going to hype up that storyline. Becky Lynch, you see her leaving with the belt.
Yeah, I think Becky's going to retain. I don't see Natalya winning.
I am going to go Becky Lynch, and here's why. Because when we move on to the SmackDown Women's Championship, Bayley versus Ember Moon, I'm saying Ember Moon leaves with the SmackDown Women's Championship.
Yeah, as much as I like Bailey, I'm a big fan of hers. Ember Moon, she's on fire right now. She's really come into her own, I would say. She's really, blazed a pretty good trail so far. So I think it's time for Ember to get the title.
United States Championship match. I kind of would like to see, I'm never an advocate for this kind of stuff, but because it's probably going to be people getting involved, I'd rather kind of see this in a 6-man tag kind of way. But AJ Styles, without the OC, I guess, in the match officially, defends his United States Championship against Ricochet. Who do you see leaving with the United States Championship?
As much as I'd like to see Ricochet get his title back, I think they're going to roll with AJ and have AJ have the belts on, on the OC with Gallows and Anderson on the tag team side. And then you're going to have AJ Styles having this title, and I think AJ's going to win.
See, I would be more of a fan, and I know this would be cool down the line. How about an all the belts match? You have the OC with the U.S. belt and the tag belts, maybe versus the other tag team champions of SmackDown with the Intercontinental Champion of Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke versus AJ, and then the 2 tag team championships, winner take all. I know that there's no storyline right now for all that, but I'm just saying, I feel when you have a faction that has all the belts, that's kind of one of those things you kind of got to go after there.
Yeah, I don't think they will yet, because I think they're building them up is where I'm thinking this is going. So that's why I wouldn't take AJ out of the title, take the belt off of him, because they're building the OC. So far it's been a decent build. I think they're going to continue. And I think it gives them more juice if they had the titles.
So moving on to some of the championship matches on the card, the main championship matches. Kofi Kingston defends against Randy Orton. They kind of gave us a little package these past couple of weeks trying to hype up Randy Orton. I'm personally going to take Randy Orton. I know he's been the champion before. He's not the young buck anymore, but I feel he's kind of fallen off a little bit. And Randy Orton, crazy enough, I feel it's been a decent amount of time. I want to say WrestleMania 33, the shirt I'm currently wearing if you're watching on YouTube, is when he left with the belt. He defeated Bray Wyatt in that weird match where they had all the images on the screen. He became the champion of SmackDown then. And I think for the first time since 2017, since losing to Jinder Mahal, he's going to be champion again, beating Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston's had quite a run as champion. Nobody's going to fault him, but I mean, I feel Kofi Kingston's run as champion. The thing is, too, being the underdog. I mean, how long can you be the underdog if you have such a long streak of winning?
Yeah,
so,
I get what you're saying, but I think Kofi's going to have the title for a little bit longer. I said this before on previous episodes. I think he's going to have it.
I mean, it is SummerSlam. I just feel there's got to be a big title change.
I would say Survivor Series.
I feel there's got to be a big title change at one of the main events, and I'm picking Brock Lesnar taking over versus Seth Rollins. I'm taking Brock Lesnar to win.
Big shocker
against Seth Rollins.
You want a title change? You know where I'm going.
You're going Seth Rollins is going to defeat Brock Lesnar.
Yes, I am.
Now, here's the question. Does Seth Rollins beat Brock Lesnar clean like he did at WrestleMania?
Absolutely not. He's going to be dirty about it, and that's fine.
Well, I don't mean dirty about it, but I mean, is there going to be any sort of help? Is there going to be any sort of controversy?
I hope so. I hope there is, because I think Brock needs to go down one way or the other. I don't care if it's clean, dirty, indifferent. Does not matter.
Well, Brock's not going away. I think that's the thing we got to face here. He's not going away.
He needs to go away.
Well, he's not going away. He's done with UFC, with the SmackDown on Fox deal coming in less than 2 months. I think we're going to start seeing more Brock Lesnar. So either he's going to be the champion.
Wait, so you'll see him maybe, twice a month, not, once every.
I mean, we've been seeing him a decent amount, I want to say, lately, especially with his attacks on Seth Rollins in the back. I want to say he's been there.
Brock just flexes his arms.
He's been there, though. He's been at the shows. I understand that he's not in matches because that's the gimmick of Brock Lesnar. Everybody has to have their thing. The reason Bray Wyatt hasn't been in matches, and they've been talking about him since April, because everybody's got to have their thing. Brock Lesnar's thing is not to just have matches.
The majority of fans that I have spoken to are done with Brock Lesnar. That's why the product is where it is, and it's in this weird phase right now because of Brock Lesnar. Brock needs to go. He's not. I mean, yes, he's gonna. He appeals to advertisers and all this and that. But at the end of the day, you have to appeal to your fan base. The ratings, yeah, SmackDown's over 2 mil, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not. The fans don't want it. Remember before they said, the McMahon family said, hey, we're going to listen to you. Okay, then listen. Get rid of Brock Lesnar.
Before we go, I've made a last-minute change of plan here. Think it's crazy, probably wild. But I'm still taking Ember Moon to win the Women's Championship match. But on a change of note, I'm going to take Natalya with the help of Ronda Rousey to
Okay.
defeat Becky Lynch at SummerSlam. I was just thinking this while we're talking, and I'm like, you're talking about people who are part-time, people who got to go, where the product currently is, and it just made me think, obviously, of Ronda Rousey, and made me think, you know, we haven't seen her in a little bit. Maybe it's time she makes, maybe not a full return, but we obviously know her friendship with Natalya, obviously her hatred of Becky Lynch. She lost the belt to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
So that's where I'm going. But either way, SummerSlam this week, I may or may not be there. I will be in the area right before the show. So question is, don't text me because I either may be driving home and watching it on tape delay because I'll be driving home from Toronto at 7 o'clock, or I might be at SummerSlam Live.
Yeah, same.
We'll find out.
Same goes for you too, because I will be. You know,
He'll be out of town as well, so
Yeah.
he may or may not be watching
Yeah.
it live. I will be in Toronto at 7 o'clock. I may be on my way home from Toronto, or maybe at SummerSlam, depending on where tickets go. As of right now, they stand at $100, which is a $20 drop from where they were. NXT tickets, as I mentioned, have dropped as well. So as long as everything goes right, I will be at SummerSlam. I just got to make sure that I don't buy the T-shirt that says SummerSlam. I was there at the Superstore prior to buying my tickets, because that would be kind of silly. I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah, don't
if
do
I
that.
wasn't really there.
Don't do that.
But either way, we'll be back next week to talk all things SummerSlam. If I am at SummerSlam, maybe I'll have a video or well to post. This has been the Heel the Face podcast with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. You can find myself at K-Rock Jared. And most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face. Like I said, we'll talk SummerSlam next week and build up to the next pay-per-view event. What is it? Clash of Champions. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
AEW's on the horizon. More WWE on the horizon. We'll talk about it next week. See ya.